Everywhere you look, the headlines are dominated by artificial intelligence, self-driving EVs, autonomous drones, and next-generation defense systems. The future sounds digital, it sounds automated, it sounds unstoppable. But here's what most beginner investors are missing. None of it works without rare earth elements. These critical minerals sit at the foundation of the technologies everyone is excited about. They power precision missile systems, fighter jets, EV motors, wind turbines, robotics, and even the hardware inside AI data centers. Yet while investors chase the flashy tech names, very few are paying attention to the raw materials that make the entire ecosystem possible. Welcome to the J Money Show. If you're new to investing, make sure to subscribe and join a growing community of investors who choose clarity over hype, long-term thinking over short-term noise. Here's where the geopolitics of rare earths changes everything. When global tensions force supply chains to shift, capital follows policy. And right now, the United States is making a strategic move to reduce its dependence on China's dominance over the rare earth supply chain. This isn't just political rhetoric. Washington is actively funding domestic production, supporting processing capacity, issuing defense contracts, and pushing reshoring initiatives to rebuild this industry at home. That kind of coordinated industrial policy can create powerful long-term investment tailwinds, especially for companies positioned at the center of the shift. So in today's video, we're breaking down why rare earths matter more than most people realize, why this geopolitical transition is accelerating, and why a US-based rare earth mining company could become one of the most important strategic players at the center of this shift. Now let's talk about where this opportunity becomes very real for investors, especially beginners who don't want to look back 5 years from now and realize they missed the setup. If domestic rare earth production becomes a true pillar of US industrial strategy, and based on defense policy, reshoring initiatives, and federal funding, all signs suggest that it will, then one company could undergo a major perception shift in the market. That company is MP Materials. Right now, many investors still think of MP Materials as just a mining company, but that framing may be outdated. MP owns the Mountain Pass mine in California, which is currently the only major rare earth mining operation operating at scale in the United States. That alone makes it strategically important. But what makes the opportunity potentially much bigger is that the company is not stopping at mining.
Another big story that we're watching today, China gearing up to use its dominance in rare earth minerals against the U.S. and the escalating trade war. Several Chinese media reports say Beijing is considering cutting exports of the commodities to the U.S.
Historically, China hasn't just dominated rare earth mining, it has dominated the high-value stages of the supply chain: separation, refining, and magnet manufacturing. These are the critical steps that turn raw materials into the permanent magnets used in fighter jets, missile systems, electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, robotics, and advanced electronics. MP Materials is actively expanding into those downstream stages. That matters because as Washington pushes to reduce reliance on China for mining, refining, and magnet production, any serious domestic supply chain strategy has to start with existing infrastructure. You can't build independence overnight. You build it around the assets you already have. And right now, Mountain Pass is the anchor asset. If federal funding, Department of Defense contracts, and industrial policy incentives continue accelerating reshoring efforts, MP Materials doesn't just remain a miner, it becomes a foundational node in a vertically integrated American rare earth supply chain. That's a completely different investment profile. At that point, the market may begin to view MP not as a cyclical commodity play, but as strategic infrastructure tied to national security, industrial competitiveness, and long-term policy support. For beginner investors, here's the principle that really matters. The biggest gains in the market often happen before the transformation is obvious. By the time the US has fully rebuilt its rare earth independence, and the media is celebrating success, the stock may have already repriced to reflect that reality. The early positioning window tends to close once consensus forms. Major geopolitical shifts create asymmetric opportunities, but only for investors who recognize the inflection point before it becomes mainstream. If the United States is serious about breaking rare earth dependence on China, then MP Materials is positioned at the center of that strategic shift. And that's exactly the kind of structural change long-term investors pay attention to early, not after the story is already crowded. Right now, the United States is engaged in a long-term strategic repositioning, and rare earth elements sit at the core of it. For decades, China built structural dominance across mining, refining, and magnet manufacturing, giving it powerful leverage over supply chains that feed advanced missile systems, fighter aircraft, EV motors, AI hardware, and critical energy infrastructure. From Washington's perspective, relying on a strategic competitor for materials embedded inside precision-guided munitions, radar systems, drones, and next-generation defense platforms is a structural vulnerability. That's why U.S. foreign policy increasingly overlaps with mineral diplomacy. Ukraine, for example, holds significant untapped critical mineral reserves. Securing long-term access to those deposits could become part of broader reconstruction agreements or negotiated stability frameworks following conflict, ensuring Western-aligned supply channels rather than adversarial control. Greenland, meanwhile, carries strategic weight not only because of its rare earth potential, but also because of its Arctic positioning, shipping lanes, and proximity to North America. Its mineral resources combined with its geostrategic location explain why it remains on Washington's long-term radar in defense and economic planning discussions. Canada, as one of the world's most stable mining jurisdictions and a close U.S. ally, represents another pillar in building a North American critical mineral bloc. Conversations about deeper economic integration reflect supply chain consolidation logic, not random rhetoric. However, access to deposits alone does not solve the core issue. The true leverage in rare earths lies in processing, separation, and high-performance magnet production, the value-added layers historically concentrated in China. That's why U.S. strategy is not only outward-facing, but also domestic. The federal government has supported and partnered with MP Materials, which owns the Mountain Pass mine in California, to help build a vertically integrated rare earth supply chain inside the United States. These efforts focus especially on manufacturing neodymium iron boron magnets, critical components in advanced defense technologies, including the F-35 fighter jet, naval propulsion systems, missile guidance systems, and classified next-generation platforms. By backing MP's expansion into refining and magnet production, Washington is attempting to eliminate the structural gap between raw extraction and finished strategic components. For investors, the implication is structural, not cyclical. When industrial policy, defense priorities, and capital investment converge around a single supply chain, that chain often transforms into protected strategic infrastructure. If the U.S. successfully secures diversified mineral access through allied regions, while simultaneously building domestic processing anchored by MP Materials, the market may begin pricing rare earth independence as a long-term national commitment rather than a commodity trade. These types of geopolitical realignments unfold over years, but equity markets often revalue companies well before the headlines declare victory. The rare earth boom is less about short-term price spikes and more about long-duration strategic repositioning. Historically, the outsized returns accrue to investors who recognize structural inflection points before consensus forms. If you've made it this far, that tells me something important. You're not just chasing headlines, you're trying to understand where the next structural opportunity may be forming. And when it comes to rare earths in America, that mindset already puts you ahead of the majority of investors who are still focused only on flashy AI stocks and short-term market noise. Because beneath the AI boom, beneath EVs, robotics, and advanced defense systems, there's a foundational layer most people overlook: strategic minerals. And companies like MP Materials sit right at the center of that shift. As the United States works to reduce long-standing dependence on China and build a vertically integrated domestic supply chain, rare earths are moving from being a niche commodity story to becoming strategic infrastructure. And when policy, national security, and capital investment converge around one sector, that sector can reprice in a structural, not temporary way. Here's the key lesson for beginner investors. The biggest opportunities often show up before the transformation becomes obvious. By the time rare earth independence is mainstream news, and everyone agrees it's critical, much of the early upside may already be reflected in valuations. Structural shifts reward early conviction, not late confirmation. If this breakdown helped you see the bigger picture, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the J Money channel so you don't miss future deep dives into emerging investment megatrends before they go mainstream. Share this with someone who wants to understand where the next American industrial opportunity may be developing, and drop your thoughts or questions in the comments. Let's think long-term, connect geopolitics to markets, and position early. This is the J Money Show. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.